time? Is this person worth it? I'm doing more than they're doing. And we now measure relationships like business deals. There must be a commensurate entry and exit. If I'm doing this, this person must do this back. If I'm putting in this amount of money, this person must put in that same amount of money. But it doesn't all work that way. Most relationships cannot be equal. In fact, relationships are not even equal at the same time. Sometimes you give 70, sometimes the other partner is giving 30. Sometimes it's the partner that is giving 30 that gives 70 the next day, the other partner is giving 20. But we seem to think that if they're not doing the same thing that we're doing, then it's not worth it. And I'm not saying that our questions as to what people bring to the table are entirely wrong. We must ask if our relationships do benefit us. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that not every relationship will benefit you in the way that you think or in the measure that you met out. And so it is very dangerous, to think that all your relationships must be at the same path. And it's more important because there are so many things in life that cannot be measured in terms of money and in terms of even input or output. Not in money, not in favors. And they're the very things that hold up us in life when life shifts under our feet. I'll give a good example. A man has a child, as a wife, and three children. The children are under 10. The wife is a stay-at-home mom, so she doesn't work and she doesn't bring anything to the table. And then you have the man, you know, coming, and then she dies one day. And then when she dies, he brings all the money to the table, and then he finds out that, oh, she was responsible for the feeding, for food, for ensuring that the laundry was properly done, for ensuring that the children had their meals at time, for ensuring that they went to pick them up from school, for ensuring that their emotional needs were met. Now, even if he knew her worth when she was alive, her death will be an eye opener to the invisible and incalculable value she brings into his life. So, what am I saying? That this growing illusion of self-sufficiency and independence, this culture of I don't need anybody, they can, if the relationship isn't working, then I'm out. It doesn't work all the way that we think it is. And yes, there's dignity in standing in your own feet, but there's also wisdom in knowing that no one truly stands alone. Because relationships are not balance sheets, they're ecosystems. Without going too political, let me give an example of what is happening in our world today. And that was even what struck me when I thought about this topic. Now, we're beginning to see that even nations, powerful, wealthy, influential nations, do not exist in isolation. And we can see what is playing out in the world, in the Middle East. And we can see how the US, for example, adopted a more aggressive transactional posture with its long-standing allies. And, questions were asked from NATO and all that. What are you paying? Who is paying what? Who is owing what? What are you bringing to the table? And, insults were traded. People were talked down at. And on the surface, it sounds practical, even logical. Why should one country, carry the others? But like I said earlier, relationships, whether they're between nations or individuals, are not balance sheets. They're ecosystems. And one may not see the value immediately, but we're beginning to see the value, aren't we? And we're beginning to see that there's more to paying money into an organization. There's strategic positioning, there's military cooperation, there's intelligence sharing, there's access to bases where outside the nation, and there's influence in global decision making. A lot of things that one cannot put a price on. And so we see that even in the world space, we're seeing that nations don't may not necessarily, put in into other nations as much as those nations are paying, but they serve their purpose. So a person who, and I'll give an example, of invisible value of relationships when it comes to private individuals. A person, for example, who is kind to the security of a big man, or kind to the house help of a big man. I always say that the house help of a big man is closer to him than even his associates in the office. And so imagine if you're kind to a big man and you're kind to his house help, you would get more access. You can be sure of that. We see it play out every day. You will get access to that big man more than his associates in the office. A friend to an Agbero may not get money from that Agbero, but once he appears in that Agbero's area, uh, especially if he's a capo in that area, he has the influence, he has the protection of his friend, who is an Agbero, who might not even know a tout or a thug. let me use that for people that may not understand what Agbero means. He may not have the money, he might not be seen in the places that this man will be seen, but in his own environment where he's king, he will offer you the protection, he will offer you the influence. You can see that it's not commensurate, the things that they bring to the friendship, but it's important, it's strategic, and it makes for the relationship. Not everything valuable is measurable. You can help a colleague repeatedly, no immediate benefit, and then the colleague maybe leaves that organization, or even rises up, at a faster rate than you in that organization. Years later, they will recommend you for a role in a room that you're not in. They will speak and say, when they're asking them, oh, who can do this? Oh, I know this person. In fact, the person is my organ. The person is the person that taught me how to do all that I do. And then so you see, all the time that you were teaching that colleague and helping them to find their feet, they couldn't repay you, but they repaid years later. And that's what I'm talking about. Even in friendships, you show up for someone during a tough time, they may never repay you directly, but one day they might hear your name being defamed and they defend you. They may open a door, they may connect you to someone who is important. And of course, in marriage, marriage is not 50-50 every day. If you're in marriage, you will know that some days it's 80-20, some days it's 90-10, some days 70-30, some days it's even 100-0. So if you start to calculate, I cooked yesterday, you cooked today. I called your family, you called mine. I did this for you. You also, you must do it for me. I spent 100,000 on you yesterday. You have to spend 100,000 on me today. What happens? We'll just drain the life out of that marriage. We'll drain the life out of that relationship because we're expecting the person to do the same thing for us. And the person might not have that opportunity or um that opportunity or that resource to do for you what you want them to do for you, but they might be able to do it in a different way, in another way that you might not even know about. And that's what we're talking about. We'll be going on a music break now. And when we get back, we'll talk more about why you shouldn't burn the bridges that you have, and because you might end up needing them. See you at the next.
Yet time can be disaster. Help a brother if he's down. Love and be loved, and you'll be blessed from above. But it seems you've forgotten. Yeah, you should never burn your bridges behind you. 'Cause you never know what life has in store for you. Always do the good and good will follow. 'Cause you never know what happens to.
Okay, thank you for staying with us. We're on Life with Tara, and today
And
we're
today we're
talking
talking
about
about
the fact that relationships are not balance sheets, and that we shouldn't burn the bridges that we have because we may still need to cross them. Okay, I talked about so many things and how we can burn the bridges and how our relationships are not always commensurate in value that we bring into those relationships, because people don't have the same thing to give at every point in time. And we mustn't expect, that our relationships will give exactly the same things that we give at the same times that we give them. A lot of people, you know, burn bridges a lot. And they find out that a lot of times it's done based on temporary emotions. So you're upset, you damage your network because you're basically upset. And I'll give examples. You go to work, you have a job, and one day your boss is, misbehaving, and your colleagues are upsetting you, and you leave the job angrily. Insult your boss, you leave your job angrily, you insult your boss, and then you tell your colleagues, of course, you go to another job, and then they tell you, or you find another job, you get an interview, and then they tell you they need references. And then what do you do? Of course, you get upset immediately or sad, because you know that nobody's going to give you the right reference because of the way that you left the job. That's one. Then family ties. There's a misunderstanding, there's an argument, pride steps in, and suddenly siblings become strangers until life happens, maybe an illness, a loss, transition, and then you realize that the people you pushed away were the very ones who understood your history. But you can't go back because you've said so many things to them that you just can't go back. Everything is fault. Or you have a friend, you're offended with that friend, and you withdraw, and the friend says so many things, and you say so many things about the friend, and I didn't expect this from you. But friendship is not always about perfection. It's about continuity. And sometimes the friend you walked away from was the one who will have held your hand in your darkest moments. I've had friends that, have come back to me to say, "Oh, I'm sorry, Tara. I shouldn't have reacted in the way that I reacted." And I also have gone back to friends to say, "Oh, I'm sorry. This void between us. I'm sorry that I acted the way that I acted." And we'll find out that down the road, these friends have turned up for me in ways that I never thought they could. And sometimes I just wondered, what if I'd said what came to my mind to say? What if I destroyed this friendship? What if I was not cautious, even in the way that I responded to this friend? What if I'd, you know, acted on my assumptions? What will have happened to our relationship? So, may I ask us today, how many relationships have we damaged because we felt we were giving more? How many people have we cut off because of pride, because of ego, or because of a single disagreement? Just tell people, yeah, once they do it, don't allow, once somebody tells you who they are, don't allow them to tell you again. That's, those are the vibes and the codes that we put on social media, but it's not always that way. How many bridges have we burned thinking we will never need to cross them again? Sometimes we are right. Sometimes it is our right. We're very right about it. We've made the right, the person is in the wrong. But it's not in every situation that we burn our bridges. It's not in every situation that we get angry, that we say, I'm out, I'm done. We can be right and we can still be wrong. And let me tell you something I've come to understand. Life is not a single transaction, it's a network. We will not always know the role a person will play in our lives, be it today or tomorrow. There are people in our lives who may never pay us back in the way that we expect. We will show up for them, we will support them, we will invest in the relationship, and it may feel one sided. But then one day, like I said earlier, they will mention our name in a room we're not in and open a door for us that we didn't even know existed. One day they will be standing up for us, defending us, or connecting us to someone who will change our lives. That's when we realize that the value was never in the exchange, in the obvious exchange. It often is in the unseen exchange. So relationships are not about correctness. They're about preservation. When you burn a bridge, you're not just ending a relationship, you're cutting off future opportunities, emotional support systems, shared histories and understanding, potential collaboration, and access to network beyond you. So yes, independence is powerful, but isolation is dangerous. Even the strongest people need support, need community, and need connection. Have you ever lost a relationship you later realized was important? What happened? Do you think relationships should always be equal in effort? Have you ever burnt a bridge and regretted it? Is pride destroying your relationship today? Call us. Our phone lines are open on 07000 and 09155917917. And our toll number is 0800 1235 917. And you could also WhatsApp. Though we would love to hear your voice. You could WhatsApp us on 08155 917 917. And let us learn together as to why bridges shouldn't always be burned but maintained, because you never know. The person that you say you do not need, the person that you're asking the question, what are they bringing to the table, might be that person that will hold the table, or as we say, and on the streets, the person is the table. But as I wait to hear from you, let me be clear about something. I'm not saying that you should tolerate abuse, no. There are relationships that must end. Relationships where there's toxicity, relationships where your value is not, your worth is not valued, relationships that destroy your self-esteem. And there are people that you must walk away for your peace, your sanity, and your safety. Those are not the kind of relationships I'm talking about. I'm talking about relationships where the persons are nice. They're not affecting your esteem, they're not affecting your sanity, but you just think that you're bringing more into these relationships than the person is putting in. And it's not like they're using you. No, those are not that's not the kind of relationship I'm talking about. Because there are some relationships that you must um walk away from. There's some bridges that you must close. But then it also depends on how you close the bridges. Because somebody can be toxic. You might end the relationship, but you might end it in a good way. You might end it in a proper way, in a way that if you had need for them, the next day you will come. And it reminds me of a story I heard. There was this, it was a true story. This man built a house, and he hadn't even finished completing the house. And one of his neighbors wanted to put something, in front of his house, and he felt very offended. Why should you come and dump, I think, sand or cement in front of my house? Why should you come and do that? and he wanted to, in fact, he went and said, no, they can't dump it here. It wasn't affecting his house in any way. Said, no, they can't dump it here. They must move it somewhere else. And when he went back in, his wife said, but what is the sand or cement or whatever they're putting? What is it doing? How is it affecting us in a negative way? And he thought about it and he said, okay, madam, and went back and said, okay, madam, I'm sorry I acted in that manner. Please go and put your stuff back. And he said, since that time, the woman's demeanor changed, and that even though they've not completed their building till today, that is from that woman's borehole that they get water, And he was just thinking that, the way he could have cut the bridge or broken the bridge or done stuff, that will have, damaged that relationship forever. So sometimes it's not that you shouldn't talk and advocate for yourself. Sometimes it's not that you shouldn't put boundaries. Sometimes it's not that you shouldn't even close the door on some relationships. It's that the way that you go about it sometimes is all that matters. There's a difference between setting boundaries and destroying connections. One, setting boundaries preserves dignity. The other, destroying connection, creates isolation. We must learn the art of leaving doors open behind us. Some people have thought they were done with certain relationships only to find themselves needing them again. As I said, at the same time, not every relationship needs to be intimate, but many should remain respectful. You can disagree and be civil, or as I say, you can disagree and be agreeable at the same time. You can step back and still be kind. You can move on and still leave the door open, because life has a way of bringing people back into our paths. And when that happens, it's better to meet them with grace rather than with regret. Now, how do you preserve relationships? Because I know somebody might be asking, how do I go about doing what Tara is telling me to do today? I'll give you some practical tools. One, always learn to pause before reacting. Not every offense deserves a reaction. I know it's difficult. The sun is burning out on us. We are normally very irritable. Fuel prices have gone so high. But that does not stop us, from pausing before we react, from saying, okay, can I let go of this? Do I always have to, ask for my right? Do I always have to exercise my right? Sometimes let's just learn to pause before reacting, and we'll find out that in that moment, before we take action, we just say sometimes, it's not worth it. It's not that hard, as we say. It's not that hard. Let it go. And then most times we find out that we're grateful that we did not take the decisions that we wanted to take. So that's one. Learn to pause before reacting. Two, separate ego from wisdom. And that's very instructive. It was instructive to the man whose story I told, because he went back. He had to let go of his ego, of his pride, of his, feeling right. Because after all, why should someone come and dump something in my property? So ask yourself, do I want to be right, or do I want to keep this relationship? Because there's so many times what is done, can be overlooked because of the person that is doing it. I always say to myself, when somebody does something or when somebody offends me, I always look at what they've done to me that has been good in the past, and then I use that and I say, okay, look at all what this person has done in the past, and this little thing that is negative, is it worth destroying the relationship? Do I still want to keep the relationship, you know, even though this person, I'm offended by what this person has done? And when I weigh it, most times I find out that what they've done, the good they've done, is much more than the bad they've done. So separate evil from wisdom. Ask yourself, is it all about rightness, or is the relationship important to you? Then number three, leave the doors open. Like I said earlier, you can step back without destroying the relationship. You can withdraw without giving harsh words. They say when an egg is broken, you can't put it back together. Words that have been spoken cannot be taken back, no matter how contrite, no matter how apologetic, no matter how sorry that we are. Once we've said it, and even if the person knows that we didn't mean it, it was on the spur of the moment, it was as a result of the anger and the emotions, the fact still remains that you said those things. So leave the door open. You can step back without destroying the relationship. You can take a step back and say, okay, because of this person, because of the value that I have for this relationship, I would just step back, but I would not destroy the relationship, because of the love or because of the affection or whatever that I have for the person. And then stop skipping the score. What do you bring to the table? It's just recently that I started to hear that, a lot. What A lot of times we've done things without even thinking about it. Stop keeping the score. Whether it's in the marriage, whether it's in your friendships, whether it's family. Yes, I'm the one always doing it. I'm the one. I did it yesterday. I did it today. If you have the opportunity, the ability, the capability to do the things that you do them. Just do them just because you can do them. Or rather, maybe as we say in this climb, just do them because of God. Stop keeping the score. I did this today. You must do it tomorrow. Relationships don't go when people think that they have to keep up with what the other person has done. Let whatever the person does, let the reciprocal behavior be one from the heart. Then it is heartfelt. Then it is more meaningful than when the person doesn't do anything at all, and then you think, oh, the person should do this or the person should do that. So let's stop keeping the score, please, please, please. And then last but not least, repair quickly. Don't let small issues become permanent damage. Like I told the story earlier of the neighbors, when he went back and reflected on the way that he spoke to his neighbor, he said, I'm going back to make amends. And he went and made amends quickly before it settled. And of course, I'm sure the neighbor will have thought, oh, maybe yes, because there's no light or something has on, the climate or the financial climate, I understand. And they were able to mend things. So don't let small issues become permanent damage. Don't sleep, on your anger. Be quick to repair. So, like I said earlier, our phone lines are open 07000 and 09155 Our toll free number is 0800 1235 And you can text or WhatsApp on 08155 Let's know. Have you cut off a friend and later needed them? Have you burnt a bridge and later regretted it? Is pride destroying your relationship today? Have you spoken to somebody in a way that they did not like and the relationship was damaged? What can you do about it? Do you think relationships should always be equal in effort? And have you ever lost a relationship you later realized was important? What happened? Let us hear from you when we come back from the music break that we'll be taking now. Mommy, mommy, Mm. Mm.
Like a bridge over troubled water, I will lay me down. Like a bridge over troubled water, I will lay me
Thank you for staying with us on Life with Tara this afternoon. We've been talking about an important topic, which is relationships are not balance sheets, and the importance of not burning a bridge that you may still need to cross. It's been, for me, very instructive because I'm a relationship person. And I've come to realize that life is very rather unpredictable. The person you overlook today may be the one you need tomorrow. The relationship we undervalue may be the one that sustains us later. So let's not be calculating with life and our relationships. Let's stop keeping scores and asking what people are bringing to the table every time, because everybody is not going to bring equal things to the table. The fact that you're bringing money to the table does not mean that the person that is not bringing the money to the table is not bringing value. Let's invest in people. Let's preserve our relationships. Let's choose wisdom over ego, because in the end, we can't do it alone. We cannot isolate ourselves, and we can't fight with everybody. There's no point burning our bridges, burning our connections, and then finding ourselves alone. Like some people have found themselves, alone, without any support whatsoever. Not because they don't need the support, but because they've everybody that will have supported them has gone, because they've burnt the bridges that connected them. It's not just how far we can go, it's about how far our connections can carry us when we can no longer go by ourselves. Burning bridges, you might even burn the bridge with the person that you know, not knowing that it will affect the person that you do not know. So this week, as we close, I want you to reflect. Who have you cut off too quickly? Which relationship ended over something that could have been resolved? Where did pride speak louder than wisdom? And more importantly, which bridges can still be repaired? Because, yes, sometimes all is not lost. Some bridges may be damaged, but not destroyed, though it will take a lot of humility to rebuild them. Think about it, and I'll ask you these questions again as you go about your day and go into the new week. Who have you cut off too quickly? Which relationship has ended over something that could have been resolved? Where did pride speak louder than wisdom? And which bridges can still be repaired? Please, 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 even if you are not using the bridge today, keep it. Even if you're not using that relationship today, so far it is not toxic, keep it. Life has a way of humbling us all. Things don't always work out the way that we think they will. We might find ourselves standing up in our strength and finding out that our strength has failed us. Not every disagreement deserves destruction. Not every offense deserves distance. Not every relationship must be measured. Keep the bridge. Even if you're not crossing it today, you may still need it tomorrow. And when that day comes, you will be grateful you did not burn it. It's been a beautiful time with you on Life with Tara today. And I hope that you will reflect on the questions that I've asked, listen to your answers, and go back to repair the breaches in your bridges. Till next week, Sunday, 1 p.m. on this station, have a beautiful week and make sure that you do well in your relationships. Bye.